Hi, I am Dimitri from Silver & Young Private Wealth, and I'd like to welcome you to a new episode of Behind the Wealth podcast. We explore, investigate, and analyze topics of wealth creation. Hi everyone, and I would like to welcome back to a new episode Behind the Wealth. Today we have Glenda Portelli, who is the practice manager of Silver & Young. And I had a conversation with Glenda a week or so ago regarding as a feedback how our podcast run and is any questions. And to my surprise, to my very pleasant surprise, we had a few extra questions that people came and they sent to us, and Glenda was kind enough to collate them all together and make a list. So welcome, Glenda. And
thank you, Dimitri. I'm very happy to be
here. So tell me, what are the questions that you had from our clients and in general?
Yeah, so we have some broad questions and very case study specific questions. So we'll start from the top if you like. So what does it mean to go to your financial advisor, and how can you help me?
All right. Any other questions easier than this?
We're starting at the top, Dimitri.
Wow. Look, that's a very common question, and sometimes when I'm in a barbecue or in a function after wedding or christening, I got this question. So, what financial planners do? When I say that I'm an accountant financial planner, and I guess we need to start with what we want to do to find then the appropriate help. Say, for example, if we want to build a house, we know that we need to go to an architect to design the house and coordinate the building. If we have a toothache, we need to go to a dentist to fix that toothache. So the problem of understanding what is the necessity or the help we can get from a financial planner is first of all to evaluate what we really need for us to ask him or her the help. And of course, this is coming to a creation of wealth, maintaining of wealth. Usually these questions comes after an inheritance, after probably a divorce or a death of the other half. Suddenly the person who's left behind, and if he or she never managed the money really and involved in managing the money, suddenly the person thinks or feels that, oh God, what I'm going to do now, yeah. I need to deal with this or that. So the financial planning or someone with financial planning knowledge to assist a person, it is usually comes from the particular need of the person. And all of us, of course, we are in different stages of life. We're in different family structures. We are in different needs, even if we are in the same age category or in the same demographic, still we have different, very peculiar and specific needs. And that's the help of a financial advisor, to understand you where you are now, to understand and also bring outside of you the hard questions. Okay, a lot of times we come and the client says, you know, I want to buy 2 properties, or I want to buy 1 property here, I want to do this and I want to do that. And the question is, okay, that's understandable. But why do you want to buy, say, for example, 2 properties? Why you don't buy 1 property and a parcel of this? Because what it happens, you are your for example, although Glenda, you are not a good example to use because you are in around the finance and the accounting, financial planning, so you have quite knowledge yourself. But if you are not in that domain, and say you are a doctor, or you are, I don't know, a manager or an analyst in something, or a scientist, then your domain is not finance, and suddenly you have some questions and you need to ask someone that you really trust. You have he or she has the competence to do what he suggests.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the good idea and the best thing is for them have done it before them for themselves before they say go and do that, and guide the person who asked the question to the different stages to achieve what they want to do. So the question of why, it's very important why we want to do that. Because answering the question why, it then makes it a lot easier to achieve what we really want. Because sometimes we want, but it's not important to us. Or the risk or the trouble to get what we really want is not worth it to have all this trouble to get it.
So they might have an end goal in mind, but the steps to get there may or may not be achievable.
And sometimes, absolutely, and sometimes the goal is not realistic. I had sometimes people coming at mid-50s and they have no super, very limited super. And they have, because they were in business and lost money in the business, or they were low starters, a lot of times through a divorce issues. Then what it happens, and I still want to get $150,000 for the rest of my life till I be 90. So it is good to have this aspiration, but it's not possible. Yeah. So the role of the advisor is really to put this person to a bit more real expectations according to her or his risk tolerance, according to her or his ability to understand what he or she needs to do. Because if we don't have understanding, if we don't have to sit comfortable inside our risk tolerance, a little bit on the boundaries, but not too much comfortable, but not also uncomfortable, to pass the sleep test, as we say, then have the reason why we do that, and the expectations are realistic, then definitely we are going to achieve the goals. I mean, sometimes the people coming and they say, I have $100,000 and I just want to invest in a share portfolio. And then I ask the question, how much are you preparing to lose? I say, no, I don't want to lose.
So what's your risk tolerance?
So suddenly, if you don't want to lose any money, it's impossible. I'm not saying people investing in the share market lose money, but there is days and there is months, and sometimes more than a month, that it's a drawdown, they say. So it was $10 and now the share is worth $8, or the share portfolio. So suddenly there's a 20% drawdown. So if you can't tolerate this drawdown and you panic, then you don't follow the long-term strategy and you sell, and then you see tomorrow the market goes back again, the 20 points, and you've done all this exercise for nothing. So if you don't have this risk tolerance and understanding that the markets can easily go 10, 15% and 20% in a few days, and you don't have the plan how you're going to sustain that, then the portfolio is not for you. You can do something else. There's plenty of other opportunities.
So you touched on specific circumstances of people. So another question that I have is, I'm going through divorce. What do I need to do and where do I start?
This is a really hard for the person going through the divorce. At the best, any divorce, it's very heartbreaking, and it's very drain energy because invested so long on that particular relationship, and then we divorce. So where we start? Number one, we need to start. I think number one is to update your will. This is paramount, because suddenly, especially if you have assets, you need to update the will, because you don't want your ex-spouse, probably, not all the time. Sometimes we want the ex-spouse to get our wealth for whatever reasons other. But this is exception. The majority, you need to update the will, even if you want your ex-spouse to have whatever assets you have after your death. Still, you need to update the will, review your will, I would say. Review your binding nominations on your super, which is another will inside your super that is more directed to these funds that you have in super. I'll go back to the will. It's very important if you have children to think who is going to be the executor of that will and who's going to look after the kids. But of course, the solicitor, we address this with the person. And the other thing is then do a budget, know where you stand. And then, for example, is you count, okay, what I have this, I have that, I have this, I'm sitting here, I'm doing this. Okay, what is the next step? And then the next step, of course, is to make sure that all we have is secure and we know what we have is under control. And then we put a plan for the future. All right, what I do now? I go and find a job if I was, for example, a stay-at-home mom, or if I was a professional woman, can I keep that 70 hours or 60 hours work a week? Maybe I need to reduce it because my two daughters are very, I need to take them from school. So all this has to be addressed in the plan. But the major thing is the will, the binding nominations, clear up the deck with all the things that you don't need from point of view of to help you clear your mind where you want to go to the next step. Because at the end of the day, after 2 or 3 years or 5 years, this person is going to look back on that time with a lot, of course, of pain many times, but it's not the end of the world. A lot of times it comes better days than the days before. People, and especially I've seen this in women, they come a lot stronger after the divorce on a personal level than men, and they move faster, at least in a career, of course, and it's like a sense of freedom and achievement. So for financial point of view, review your assets, review what you want to do, review your capacity to earn income, review your superannuation, you review your will, and then get a support team. Say, get an accountant, get a financial planner, have your solicitor. This is your immediate support team. You don't need to use them every day because you don't need them every day, but you have a good relationship to cover for needs that or for areas that you don't know or you never before used to practice because your other half did it. And a lot of times this applies to men. A lot of men, they just go to work and they come back, they bring the wages, and the wife does everything. So it's not only to the woman.
And they've got their own things to learn as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I've gone through my divorce. I've achieved settlement, and often out of that divorce comes a parcel of money, shares, whatever it is. So let's say I'm a single mum who works full time to pay my mortgage. So I've used my divorce money to buy a house. What insurances do I need to get, and what's the most important?
If you have a young children under 18, probably one of the very important insurances is life insurance, because especially if your home has some debt, and say you own a home, say $700,000-800,000, and you have $400,000 loan. So you need to have to ask the question for yourself: is that risky? If something happens to me, who's going to support my kids? Now, if you have your parents, and you say you are 30 and your parents are 55, and they are strong and healthy and financially comfortable, you need less insurances because the grandparents could probably step in and take control and help your children. But if you are alone or your parents are 90 or 80 or a limited financial capacity, then you have to consider, okay, what's going to happen to my kids, and who's going to look after, and they need to live in a house. So the house has to be debt free because who's going to pay it off? This is one thing. The other thing is important, of course. I'll skip a couple of very important others, but the most important is life insurance if you have a debt, to protect your young family. And the second is to protect your income. To protect your income, so that if something happens to you on a long-term illness and you cannot go to work and earn your $5, $10, $20, then you need really to have an insurance to protect 75% usually is of that income. So you can maintain your mortgage repayments, you can maintain the school fees of the kids. This is the most important to my view. But of course, this is very, very important to be tailored around the person's needs and the kids. If the kids are 17, is a different risk than if the kids is 4. Is a different risk than the kids is 3. Is a different risk if you have, as I said, support, family support, and if you are just alone because you just migrated to Australia and you have no one else, and happen after 3-4 years to be divorced.
Okay, so I'm actually going to skip the next question because it kind of leads into what we were just talking about. So I've gone through my divorce, I've bought a house, then I've met someone, and I've become a blended family. So how do I protect my estate in the situation where I've gone from single mum to with my own house to protecting my estate now that I've met someone?
The blended family, it's a big chapter, and it is an interesting chapter. And I have to say, when I do advice for blended families, I enjoy it, although a lot of times it's difficult. But I enjoy it because it's challenging to think ahead of the risks of that blended family may have. And if I'll use just a random example. Say the person divorced gets with another person, together he or she has 1 or 2 children. He or she has 1 or 2 children, or have no children. Say we have both of them have 1 or 2 children, and then the one thing we have to understand is what they bring financially to the new family. It could be one half of the new family, or the new partner bring nothing because they never had anything, or can bring a lot, and the other, so one brings more than the other. So we need to address this issue. The second issue is, of course, all right, now we are together as one budget, one family, and we build up wealth from now for the next 20, 30, 40 years. The will here is very important. What's going to happen, this money, how we can transfer the assets and the wealth we created over the next 20, 30 years we are together as a new blended family. When I have children, and for example, she has children. So what are you going to do with that? My children are 16, 17, her children is say 2 or 3 for the previous marriage. So what are you going to do now? How are we going to manage this? And this needs a little bit, not a little bit, a lot of thinking. How you draft your will and your estate plan. The reason is you don't want to live. This is my personal opinion, of course. You don't want to leave reasons for the family to fight after you. And because you are not there, and the other half maybe is not there because we can die, both of us, in an accident together, then you need to have as much as possible structured orders or wishes that is going to happen A, B, C, D, and the executor of the will is going to execute exactly what these 2 people wanted. The other question is, okay, I am a new family now, my new wife, together we bring both of us some assets. What's going to happen if I die first? If I have the 50-50%, okay, all to my new wife, then maybe after 5 or 10 years, my wife thinks that, Dimitri's sons, they didn't treat me well, so I'll take them out. So you need to think ahead. There is no question, there's no answer to this because everyone is different. So nobody can give that person or give me, if I have that situation, the answer. But my role as a financial advisor is to bring these issues on the table, and then and stir the pot in a nice way, in a positive way, to make it deal with that issues, and the two parties to come to an agreement that they're happy, and they know from now what's going to happen as much as possible. Because
It can also be an evolving answer as well.
Correct.
So what you think today, you might not think in 5 years' time.
Correct. And it should be an evolving, because the relationship change, the needs change. Today, maybe you just, we have, me and my new partner, only one house, and we're struggling to pay it off. Tomorrow, I do a new job, she does another job, and we get some more money, and we have another investment. And, you know, so it has to be involved, it has to be updated. The other important thing beyond the will is how do you deal with the new assets that you create after together? You need also to address that. Okay, we have assets before we get together. Now what we do with the new asset that we created together? I work and I make $10. You work and you make $10. So all this creates new assets. How we deal with that, and how this will flow to the family after us passed away. Some people, they do, of course, premarital contracts, and to arrange to say, this is mine, this is yours. This is still, there are some legal issues about that after a while, if there is a split again, but this is a little bit to the lawyers. But what is the help of financial plan in this situation? Is to draft a plan and to help ask the questions of this new couple to address these issues that maybe not be aware, because they haven't dealt with that issue. I mean, usually people, they divorce once and that's it. So they don't know what they have to deal with that and what they're going to deal with that.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I'm really conscious of the time. Have we got time for one more question?
Probably one more.
One more? Okay. So we'll ask, my partner and I work full-time. We are paying off our own home and are thinking of buying an investment property. What's the best structure, and are there any dangers to look out for?
Yes. The one thing, it's a tax issue. Say, for example, if you and your partner are earning the same money, then probably it's a straightforward 50-50 usually. But if you earn, one partner earns more money than the other, then maybe we can consider the difference, say 80%, 20%, to make it more tax effective. The other scenario is, okay, when we sell this property in 5, 10, 20 years, where we want to be the profits. In this name, because probably this person is going to work, or she's going to work for a longer period of time, or that person. The other structure could be probably a trust that then can distribute the profits and the gains. But this is, of course, depending if there is a big loan and there is negative gearing, the trust can carry losses. So become to a bit more complexity, which is more of accounting question. Yeah, I lost my chain of thought. What is the other question?
I've got some questions centered around self-managed super funds. So what happens to my SMSF when I'm old, and who controls my SMSF when I become incapacitated? And the other one I've got around SMSFs is shares versus property, risk versus conservative.
I'll answer to the question about SMSF and control. I think this is a timing bomb will come to the people who established SMSFs 10, 15 years ago, and now they are probably in the mid-50s. And then as they grow older, of course, their kids are becoming to the SMSF. They come in because usually it is husband and wife, and usually it is one or two children of the family. Control of SMSF, it's really a growing a problem that I think people underestimating at the moment, because they are in control.
Yeah.
The people who created and established the SMSF. So it is very important the people who are in the SMSF, they have the technical knowledge or the capacity, not the technical knowledge to do any accounting goal for SMSF, but the technical knowledge to manage the SMSF, to liaise with the accountants, the financial planners, and review it, the strategy of what we do with SMSF and for investment. Number one, all of them, or the majority of them, not just to be the father or the mother who created the SMSF. Number one. Number two is when the people get older, there will be somehow another dominant person in the family will want to control that SMSF. And I give you a characteristic. Say, for example, husband and wife has an SMSF, and they have their two daughters are in the SMSF. Then the husband who created the SMSF and used to control the money passed away. But the mother, who never touched money, he never did anything regarding finance, she needs to rely on the one or the two daughters for her decision. And if the relationship in the family is positive and everything good, usually it goes fine. But then if it becomes a problem in the family and there is an issue, a family issue behind that, what it does highlights these financial issues. Say maybe the family, the girls want to buy another property through SMSF, or they want to invest in a portfolio of shares, and there is not enough liquidity for the pension of the mother. So defining who is going to control the SMSF after you, and also train someone after you who controls the SMSF, it's very important. And it's actually risk mitigation for the SMSF itself, because the SMSF really goes from generation to generation if you have your kids. And it's a very strong way to pass wealth from one generation to another, because you create wealth in your SMSF, you consume, they put the super, so the wealth changes the percentage of what you have and what your kids. And then when you die, everything sits on the SMSF. There's no capital gains usually if they don't need to sell. So it is, I think, an issue that a lot of people, when they do, they start to establish SMSF, they don't think who is going to control the SMSF, and after the demise or after the mental incapacitation when they got older.
I guess it's important to as your children grow and become adults themselves, educating them and maybe bringing them into the self-managed super fund, so that they're experiencing what it is to have a self-managed super fund.
In my personal view, there are three things you need to do for your kids, absolutely necessary. Put your values, put values to your kids to have values. Mm-hmm. Then also teach them financially to stay on their own feet, because you're not going to be around forever. And the third is let them, by of course yourself as an example, to work hard and in a balanced way. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have values, everything goes blurred and everything goes easy to justify and do anything. And it comes this to the parent. If the kids doesn't have value, can easily say, oh, my dad is now lost it. Stuff him, throw them away in a nursing home, and I'll take control. The values will stop that, not the legal way. The second thing is financial education. If you don't have financial education for your children, you deprive them for so many things. All of us, we want to have bachelors and degrees and this and that. Yes, it is important, and trade and whatever. And we want to have money, but you need to have financial education, not only to create the money, but also to maintain the money you will inherit it later on. So a lot of wealthy parents, they don't teach the kids about wealth because they feel comfortable. They are wealthy. Yes, but how they're going to manage your wealth that you created in your generation? And of course,
if you don't educate them, they'll more than likely blow it all.
They blow it up because they don't know better. Because always they had someone to tell them, do this, do that. And the moment you're not around, who's going to tell them? So I think this is the three most important things: values, financial education, and hard working ethics.
Okay. I think that answers all of my questions. Thank you, Dimitri.
All right, Glenda, thank you very much for make this list. You make me work hard this time. I have to think really.
I might have to come back and talk to you about self-managed super funds.
All right, Glenda, thank you very much. And before we go, I would like to say this, that whatever we say today, it is a general advice and it's not personal advice. And if you have any question, please ask your accountant or your financial planner, or give us a call on 96007760, or email us on SW,
PW.
Yeah, email us on pw@silveryoung.com.au, P as the private, W as wealth, Silver Young, silver as the metal, young as the youth.com.au. Till next time. Thank you, Glenda.
Thank you for having me.
Till next time. Have a good day. I hope you have enjoyed our recent episode Behind the Wealth, provided to you by Dimitri from Silver & Young Private Wealth. If you have any questions regarding our recent episode, please email us on pw, P for Peter, W for Word, @silveryoung.com.au. Until next time, have a good day and enjoy life.